All right, so once again, good morning and welcome to today's lecture. It is episode 3 of the series of lectures we are having on ecology. In this lecture, we shall be looking at the energy flows. We shall be looking at food chain, food web, and the pyramid of numbers. All right. Then after that, we shall take a brief random quiz. Okay. So I'll give you the questions. Then I mention your name. Then you submit the answers. All right. Just oral, outright. All right. Then after that, I shall get the other questions for you in the Google form. All right. Then I'll post it at the Google Classroom. You follow the link from there and answer appropriately. All right. Thank you very much. And if you're ready, I am ready. We can start. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So before we start, let me do a brief recap of what we did. We looked at some of the the types of ecosystems the other day. We saw that basically there are natural and artificial ecosystems. All right, and each of these ecosystems comprises of two main things: either freshwater and either aquatic or terrestrial. All right. Now, if it is aquatic, then it means that it is made up of water. If it is terrestrial, then it means that the habitat is away from water. All right. Now, if you look at the aquatic ecosystem, you will see freshwater systems and marine ecosystems. All right. Now, the freshwater systems are those systems that do not contain salt, or they contain only little amounts of salt, whereas the marine ecosystems have very high amounts of salt. All right. We saw examples of marine as shorelines, coral reefs, and even the open sea. Whereas the freshwater, we have the lakes, the ponds, the streams, the ditches, and so on and so forth. Then there's an intermediary between the freshwater and the marine, which is a transitional ecosystem. So there we see the wetlands and the estuaries. All right. Then we looked at some organisms and their adaptations to these various ecosystems. All right. Now, if you're living in the freshwater ecosystem, you don't have a problem. You don't have any much room, but you have the problem. You need to adapt. You need to be adapted. All right, to to photosynthesis if you are a plant. So you should be exposed to light. That is why, for instance, these plants, all right, live at the surface of the water where there is a lot of sunlight that they can trap for photosynthesis. You see mosquito larvae and mosquito pupae also just a little below over there. They feed on the microorganisms called the phytoplankton. All right, and then they are also fed on by bigger fish and so on and so forth. All right, so there are some other large animals such as this fish you see in the picture. All right, they also live along the entire depth of the water. All right, then there are some plants that also live submerged. There are some that that are anchored to the bottom. There are some that are distributed along the edges of the pond, and so on and so forth. There are some crabs, toads, snails. There are worms, there are larvae, there are leeches, and these ones form the primary consumers that live along the length of the pond. All right. There are some snails. Example is the ancylous snail. There are black fly larvae that stay on rocks. All right. Okay. Then from there we come to the terrestrial ecosystem, which comprises tropical forests, savanna, and the desert. Even though I told you there are some other ones, the tundra, the taiga, and so on and so forth. But then our attention is on only the desert, the savanna, and the tropical rainforest. And I told you how each of these ones differ from each other, right? Um, then the last time we talked about food chain, and I told you that uh, in an ecosystem, the food is manufactured by plants and is consumed by herbivores and carnivores, and then broken down into basic elements and then released back into nature by decomposers. So essentially, the members of the ecosystem are the plants which are producers. Then we have herbivores and carnivores which are consumers. Then we have decomposers. All right. Okay. So in the process of the food moving from one member of the ecosystem to another, there is the process by which the food moves from one member of the ecosystem to another through a number of organisms is called food chain. Now, the food chain is characterized by being eaten. The food chain is characterized by repeated eating and being eaten. So I'll eat something, something will also eat me. All right. Obiabedibi. They get it. Somebody must eat somebody, and somebody must eat somebody. That kind of repeated thing. All right. So you have some examples over here. Maize is eaten by human. Then uh, zebra eats grass. Lion eats zebra. Earthworm eats grass. Frog eats earthworm. Hawk eats frog. Grasshopper eats grass. Lizard eats grasshopper. Snake eats lizard. Hawk eats snake, and so on and so forth. So you see that the energy is transferred from this first level to this other level in that order. All right. So some of the herbivores in the ecosystem are the primary consumers are cattle, grasshopper, grasscutter, and so on and so forth. Then some carnivores are praying mantis, the toad, the lion, man, and so on and so forth, right? Now, there are some organisms that have varied uh, there are some organisms that have varied food relationships. For instance, they are able to they eat both plant and animal products. Okay, example is you. Example is pig. Example is fowl. All right. So these organisms are referred to as omnivores. Omnivores. All right. Good. So let's look at what really happens in the food chain, how food is transferred or how energy is transferred from one level to another in the food chain. Then we said that the main source of energy is the sunlight. All right. Now the sunlight comes in the form of solar radiation or light energy or solar energy. All right. Now, of all the energy that is given or provided by the sun, only 1% is converted to food. Sorry, only 1% of the sun's energy is produced or is used to produce food. Why? Why? The remaining 99%, part of the 99% will be absorbed by the soil and clouds. All right. Or sometimes some of the clouds also reflect the sun energy back. All right. Now, from the surfaces of the plant, the sun rays are also reflected back. All right. Then, of course, dust particles and pollen grains and other spores of microorganisms in the air or in the atmosphere reflect back some of the sun rays. All right. Then part of the sun energy is used by the plants again, this time not for photosynthesis, but for respiration. All right. The energy transferred from primary consumers is only about 10% efficient. You know why? The from the plant, after the plants have used the 1% of the sun's energy to make food, you know that now the food becomes 100%, right? Now, of the 100% food produced by the plant, only 10% reaches the first consumer or the primary consumer. Why is that so? That is so because some parts of the plants are not eaten. All right. I think the other day I made mention of the fact that the cassava we eat, all right, we don't eat all the leaves, we don't eat all the stems, it's only the roots that we eat. And even the roots is not every part of the roots we eat. We peel some part off. All right, then after that we remove some particles from the agbelimo, all right, long threads that are in it. All those things should have been eaten to make up the 100%, but we don't eat them. So in the end, only 10% of the cassava is made, it becomes food for us. Now, even if we eat that, if we eat that, it is not everything that we eat that the body uses or utilizes. You know why? Some of the food substances are not digested, and so we remove them as feces. Okay. Then some of the food are also used for, or so let me say, part of the food is also used for other life sustaining activities such as respiration, movement, and growth, and so on and so forth. All right. So you see that um, we don't have 100% efficiency of the transfer of energy from even the producer to the primary consumer, and then from the primary consumer to the secondary consumer. Essentially, between the secondary consumer, sorry, between the primary consumer and the secondary consumer, the efficiency is only about 10%. You know why? Because chunk of the energy that is gotten from the first consumer is used to sustain some of the life activities of the secondary consumer. All right. The same thing that I said in the first instance. So you should note that energy transfer from one trophic level to the next is progressively lost or progressively decreases. Okay. What is the importance of the food chain at all? The food chain reveals the food relationship and interdependence among living organisms in an ecosystem. So if we know that this person eats this person, this person eats this person, this person eats this person, or I'm referring to living organisms in the ecosystem, right? So if we know that organism A eats organism B is eaten by organism also eats organism C, and so on and so forth in that order, then we can establish a relationship. We call it feeding relationship, which is the food chain. Right? So it is the food chain that exposes that feeding relationship or association between this and this. So if you see the lion and you see the zebra, you know that okay, the association between the lion and the zebra is feeding. All right, so one feeds on the other. All right. If you see the praying mantis and some other insects, you will know that okay, the praying mantis will feed on these other insects. All right. The food chain enables scientists to study the mechanisms of food, energy, and nutrient transfer that occur through nature. All right, so like I said, food and energy are always moved from one trophic level to another. All right, so it makes it possible for scientists to establish, all right, to establish these food substances, food transfers, and of course, study the mechanisms. It is because we're able to study food chains now we know the percentage of sun energy that the plant uses, the percentage of food that the percentage of energy that moves from the producer to the first consumer and to the second consumer and to the tertiary consumer in that order. All right. Then, of course, it enables us to examine the effect of use of chemicals in controlling pests. All right, because you know the most of the chemicals that we use in pest management are normally non-biodegradable. All right, and so they keep on accumulating at every trophic level. All right, so it makes the consumers at the top of the food chain become more prone to the accumulation of these chemicals. So this process is called bioaccumulation or biomagnification. Take note of these terms. All right. Now look, let us take let us take the food chain. Okay, let me show you a picture. Let me use that picture to explain that. Look at, are you guys there? Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So look at this picture.
Yes, sir.
All right. So in the uh, in this picture, you would see the green color represents producers. In this case, let's say plants. All right. So you see that it is more rectangular than the red one and this other color and this other color are. Do you understand that? So let's assume that the bigger the rectangle, the more the numbers at each trophic level. I'm explaining bioaccumulation. What happens is that when we apply weedicides, all right, when we apply chemicals to control the population of the plants over here, you know that the plant numbers are more than the primary consumer numbers, secondary consumer numbers, and tertiary consumer numbers in that order, right? If we apply chemicals to these people over here, the chemicals will remain in their bodies. Primary consumers are fewer than the producers. That means that they will eat more of the more of the producers to be able to sustain their lives. All right. The same way, the secondary consumers will also eat more of the primary consumers in order to stay healthy and alive. The same way, or in the same vein, tertiary consumers will also eat more of the secondary consumers in order to survive. Now, if the plants, the chemicals are applied to the plants, and then uh, the chemicals are applied to the plants, and then let's take, for instance, the grasshopper. The grasshopper eats. Okay, no, let's take another example. Say rabbit. Good, good. So the rabbits will eat plenty of these grasses or these plants over here at the base. All right. Now, if the um if the cat will eat the rabbit, would you agree with me that the cat will not eat only one rabbit, but will eat many rabbits? All right. So the rabbit eats plenty of plants. That means it is accumulating plenty of the biomolecules, all right, or the chemicals, all right. Let's say that in the plants there are 10 toxic chemicals that are in the plants, and then the rabbit will eat, let's say, let's say, uh, uh, um, let's say five of them, all right. So, and how many there are, let's say, 100 plants over here, 100 plants, each of them containing 10 chemicals, all right. The rabbits will eat about 50 plants, each of them containing 10 chemicals. So in the end, each rabbit will have how many chemicals? 50 chemicals. 50. One rabbit will contain 50 chemicals. Now the cat also eats about 2 rabbits. 2 rabbits. Then in the end, the cat alone now would be holding 100 chemicals in its tissues. All right. So now if another organism at the top eats the cat, let's say the hawk eats the cat, let's say 2 cats, then 100 times 2 will be 200 chemicals holding in the tissues of the eagle. So that's how we explain bioaccumulation or biomagnification. So the chemicals at the base keep on increasing at each trophic level. All right. Would you like to ask any question at this point? Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's continue. How do we determine food chains? Now, every food chain is composed of at least 2 links. All right. So 2, 3, or 4 links. All right. And then we use arrows to indicate the flow of the direction of energy from left to right. So if I ask you to draw a food chain for me, you should be drawing something like this. All right. Each chain follows the order from producer to primary consumer to secondary consumer to tertiary consumer. So this is just a a producer to primary consumer. Then this one has all the 5 levels: the producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and this one is a top predator, all right, or apex predator. Now bear in mind that each trophic level is the stage or level in a food chain, all right. The trophic level is each stage or level in a food chain, all right. The minimum is 2 levels, and here we have it: the grasshopper, the grass to the grasshopper. That's all. All right. Okay, let's continue. Who are the members of the ecosystem? All right, the living parts of the ecosystem. Jessica, unmute. Every ecosystem every ecosystem has a number of organisms which coexist, all right, and are regularly interacting one with another, all right. Some of them have special relationships that influence themselves and the distribution and abundance of others, all right. So in an ecosystem, there are 4 main living organisms, and these are okay, there are 4 main living organisms based on their ecological roles and their mode of nutrition, all right, what they eat and how they eat it, and the roles they play in the cycle of nutrients within the ecosystem, all right. Let's continue. The first one we'll look at is the producer or the producers, the group of organisms called the producers. These are members which are able to use the sun's energy and convert it into organic molecules that complex organic molecules such as glucose. All right. So the reason why they're able to do this is because they have chlorophyll, which traps the sun energy. Now, chlorophyll is the only pigment on Earth that is able to do that. And plants and some other green algae and chemotrophic bacteria and phytoplankton have that chlorophyll. So in the food chain, what is the importance of producers? They form the base of all food chains, all right? They are numerous and usually outnumber all other organisms from the picture I showed you earlier on. Then examples are cassava, maize, all the plants, right? All the plants are producers, all plants. Okay. There are consumers. These are the organisms that feed on plants and other organisms for survival, all right? They are therefore
Sir.
called, yes,
Sir,
yes.
I can't hear you. Sir, please, I can't hear you.
That's William, right? Can you hear me now? Can you hear now? Can you all hear? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Is
So
it
we can
clear?
hear
Is
you.
it clear? Okay, all right, then let's continue. The consumers feed on plants and other organisms to sustain their lives, all right? So they are called heterotrophic, all right? They are heterotrophic. Now, under the consumers, we have primary consumers. These are the first consumers and feed directly on plants and plant parts, all right? So examples are the grasshopper, elephant, goat, rabbits, and so on. All right. Then we have the secondary consumers. These people feed on other animals for their energy. All right. Or for their energy needs. Example is the frog, lizard, fox, tick, louse, and what have you. Then we have the tertiary consumers. These are animals that derive their energy from eating both primary and secondary consumers. All right. So you see the hawk feeding on the frog, at the same time feeding on the rabbits. All right. You see the hawk or the eagle feeding on a lizard, on a snake, at the same time catching a fowl and other birds. All right. The tiger will go for the tiger will go for the tiger will go for an elephant, will go for an antelope. All right. At the same time, if there is trouble in the forest, a group of tigers can attack a fox and vice versa. So the foxes can also group together. We call it aggregation. We call that process, that mechanism, aggregation. They also group together and consume a tiger. All right. So these are the tertiary consumers. Some members have varied diets. They feed on both plants and animals. They are called omnivores. I think I mentioned that to you. So animals that stalk or chase their prey are called predators. Predators. Whereas those that live and grow on or in other organisms, causing harm to them, all right, are called parasites. All right, so both omnivores and parasites are consumers. All right. Now, what is the importance of consumers to a food chain in an ecosystem? You will agree with me that the herbivores will eat up plant parts and build up their bodies and then serve as food for carnivores, right? The herbivores will also, by eating plants and plant parts, the herbivores control the population of producers in an ecosystem, all right? So a good way of using uh, or of applying what we call biocontrol is using some herbivores to feed on some of your plants or some plants that are pests instead of using chemicals. All right. So for instance, you can use the guinea fowl to control the sedge population in your farm. The sedge is a type of weed, and guinea fowls eat sedges without attacking or destroying your crops on the farm. So you use guinea fowls, you introduce guinea fowls on the this thing on the farm, and they will eat all the sedges without eating the crops on the farm. All right. Now again, carnivores are used to control the population of herbivores in an ecosystem. Again, example I will use, a typical example I will use is the fowls. All right. You use domestic fowls to control the population of weevils in your maize and beans. All right. Even though, especially for the maize, it's some way because you don't expect the fowl to select the weevil and leave the maize. So let's use uh, only beans. You know that most fowls don't eat beans. All right. So if you have beans that is infested with weevils, you just pour the beans in the open, and then you bring your fowls and the fowls to select the weevils and leave the beans for you. All right. Instead of spraying chemicals onto the beans. All right. Then carnivores also feed off some herbivores. All right. So we have lions, we have tigers, we have foxes, and all other carnivorous animals eating and controlling the populations of many herbivores such as cobs, deers, waterbacks, bushbacks, all right, and all the other antelopes in the ecosystem. If they are not eating, if somebody does not eat them, all right, they will continue to feed on the plants and grow, and their populations will escalate. Their populations will increase to the extent that the ecosystem will not be able to handle them. That is why it is important for someone to eat someone. All right. Okay. Let's continue. The other group of organisms are saprophytes. As for these guys, they eat dead, decaying organic matter. How do they do that? They will secrete enzymes that will digest the dead, decaying organic matter externally. All right. So unlike humans that will eat the food and the enzymes will digest the food in our stomach or inside of the body, these guys will rather the saprophytes will rather remove secrete their enzymes onto the food outside, and the food will digest outside before it will, or before they will later on absorb and assimilate the digested part of the food. I hope you get that. So instead of eating, swallowing, and allowing the enzymes to do the digestion internally, saprophytes would rather release their enzymes onto the food outside or externally, and the food will be digested before later they will absorb the digested food. All right. So all fungi are saprophytic or are saprophytes. Okay. The next group is decomposers. In fact, depending on the book you are reading, you will realize that decomposers and saprophytes are almost the same, or they are, in some books they are the same. But I choose to separate them because fungi or saprophytes don't really convert the organic matter into simple inorganic materials. All right, but the function for the of decomposers is to convert the organic part of the atmosphere into inorganic. So this is how they do it. These organisms break dead organic matter and convert the complex compounds found in their tissues into simple absorbable inorganic elements. All right. So again, you will find fungi here. You will find bacteria. You will find some mosquito larvae, larvae. Then you will find termites. All right. All these guys and their feeding activities help to bring dead organic matter into simple absorbable inorganic elements. All right. So some of the products that these decomposers release are carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, heat energy, some nitrates, some sulfates, some phosphates, some gases, and of course, water vapor. All right. What is the importance of decomposers? Decomposers are essential because they enrich the soil with nutrients that the plants require for growth. All right. They also ensure sustenance or maintenance or balance of the ecosystem by recycling nutrients. Otherwise, the nutrients will accumulate. All right. The nutrients will remain in the tissues of the plant and animal parts. All right. Then, of course, they prevent the accumulation of wastes of living organisms in the environment. So, when we defecate and when other animals defecate, all right, it is the function of the decomposers to convert the feces into useful elements, all right, that the plants will need. Okay, when animals and plants die and they are on the surface of the soil, it is the function of the decomposers to convert their tissues back into forms that will become humus. And you know how important humus is to plants. All right. Now, they also contribute to environmental pollution. Environmental pollution in the sense that their activity of feeding on dead, decaying organic matter releases some form of stench. All right. Very terrible, agonizing smell comes from dead, decaying organic matter. You will all agree with me. They smell a lot, and it is by the action of these microorganisms called decomposers, right? Okay. Now let's look at food web. The food the food web is um, refers to several food chains that are interlinked together. All right. So the reason why we have to link food chains together is because the associations within the community are complex. All right. And you cannot trace a unique food chain and it will be the same way over time. All right. We cannot say that the lion will eat only zebra at all times. We can't say that the grasshopper will eat only grass at all times. We cannot vouch for the eagle to eat only cocolovi at all times. All right. There are times that the hawk will eat other things apart from the cocolovi. All right. So that idea that links all food chains within an ecosystem is called food web. Now, in this picture, you see, let's take the lion over here at the top. And of course, the arrows represent the direction of the feeding relationship. All right. So for instance, let's take the lion over here. uh, in the picture, you would see that the lion will eat the snake will eat the shrew will eat the grasshopper will eat the shrub over here. At the same time, we eat the grass over here. All right. This same uh, shrew eaten by the snake also serves as food for the hawk. At the same time, it is not only the shrew that the hawk eats. The hawk eats squirrels too. The hawk eats cockroach too. All right. I hope you are getting it. Now, there's this bird which serves as food for the hawk too. At the same time, for the snake, after it has eaten the grasshopper. All right. So there's so much interlinking amongst all the organisms that make up the ecosystem, especially in terms of what they eat and who eats them, or what they eat and what eats them. All right. So the food web gives us an idea that, okay, even for us human beings, we don't eat only banku. All right. Even if it is banku we are eating, we don't eat the same type of banku all the time. We have different forms. You guys have wokple, you have kokonte, you have before the banku itself, right? We have jenkple, all right? So if you take cassava, we have different types of food we get from cassava. We have gari, the tapioca, the fufu, and so on and so forth. Now, we don't only eat the banku alone, but we eat banku with some other accompaniments, such as stew or soup. All right. And in every stew or soup are many, many plant materials and animal materials. With all due respect to vegetarians in the class, but I'm not sure there are any, we have a lot of vegetarians here. What I mean is that we have fish, which is an animal source. We have meat. We have spices that contain animal sources. All right. And all these together come to make the soup. So in the end, before you eat your fufu and your light soup, you have a lot of, you know, plant and animal sources making the meal. All right. So that is a demonstration of the food web. People eat many things. Now, if you eat the fufu on Monday afternoon, bear in mind that evening time you will take a malted drink with biscuits. Now, the malted drink and the biscuits all come from plant and also come from plant and animal sources. The biscuit contains some amount of milk. I'm talking about peck biscuit, huh? My favorite. All right. So peck biscuit has some amount of milk coming from animals. Then the malted drink is coming from malts. Do you understand? The following day, like Dorcas always does, she will eat rice in the morning, and eat. Dorcas, what will you eat in the afternoon? All right, so that is that about the food web. Is there any question? Yes, Eunice, let's hear you.
Say,
Yes.
please, so like I was wondering if you could make the slides available on the Google Classroom so that we can learn and prepare for the upcoming
Oh, yes,
exams.
yes, yes. Uh,
When would that be?
elective biology, I've been able to do yours. Was it yesterday or so? So just give me some time. I'll get it done for you. All right. I have to give these things to you. I'll give them to you.
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Is that the only concern at
Okay,
this
sir.
point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then let's continue and look at the last part. That is pyramid of numbers. Now, in pyramid of numbers, just like okay, pyramid of numbers refers to the number of organisms that are present, all right, at each trophic level in a food chain. So the number of organisms representing a trophic level in a food chain. Hello. So in this picture, you would see uh, um, the green. Oh, in this picture, the green represents the producers. And if we are denoting numbers to this, then let's start from 1,000. So we have 1,000 individual plants. All right, 1,000 individual plants. Then we come to primary producers, sorry, primary consumers. Example, grasshopper. So there are 700 grasshoppers. All right. Then let's come to secondary consumers. Secondary consumers, example, frogs. So there are about 500 frogs. All right. Then let's come to the tertiary consumers. The tertiary consumers, let's take the owl, for instance. The owl eats frogs. All right. So there are about 200 owls. All right. So the number decreases as you get along the as you progress along the food chain. What did I say? The number decreases. The number reduces as one moves from one trophic level to the other. All right. Okay. So that is that for the pyramid of numbers. Now, this picture represents the flow of energy or the pyramid of energy. And that's what I told you in the mechanism of food chain. All right. What happens in the energy flow? Where we have the primary producers taking only 1% of the sun's energy to produce 100% of food. Then only 10% of the food energy is made available to the primary consumer. The primary consumer also will use only about 1%. This is supposed to be 10%, 10%. All right. Then these guys also use about 1%. Then the apex consumers or the top consumers use about 0.1%, not 0.01. These people have, in this picture, I think there's a mistake over here. All right. So that is that about the pyramid of numbers. If you have any concerns, then let me address them before I start asking you my questions. Yes. Yes. There's no concern for me to address, huh? Okay. So now this is what I shall be doing. I'll ask the question, and I'll mention your name for you to answer the question. Are you ready? Can we start? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Theophilus, is your voice I heard. Answer the first question. What is a habitat? Habitat.
Okay, so a habitat is a dwelling place for living organism.
All right. So the natural home of an organism is its habitat, or where you can find an organism within an environment is its habitat. All right, Daniel. Daniel Afongwe, are you there? Are you there? So tell us what an ecosystem is. Daniel. Mate Maslin. Mate Maslin. Is Maslin there? Maslin. Hey, nobody is minding me again because I said we have a brief test, a brief quiz. All right, Emmanuel Fumado.
Sir.
Yeah,
Sir.
yes. So answer the question. Definition for ecosystem.
Okay. So ecosystem is how living organisms live and breed and feed successfully.
Mm, that is not it, but I like the confidence. Who also raised their hand? So listen carefully, and then you'll get the answer very soon. Ecosystem. Who is answering? Yes, Owusu Godwin Makafui. Godwin, let's hear you.
It contains of both living and non-living things in their habitat and their reaction to. I said it. It consists of both living and non-living things in
Okay.
their habitat and their interaction between them.
Okay. Okay. Great. Fumado, did you hear that? So all the
Yes,
living
sir.
all the living things in their habitat and the interactions that exist between them and the non-living things. That is an ecosystem. All right. Okay. Monica Fafali, your question. Can you hear me? Kumi Monica.
Sir.
Yes. Tell us what a biotic or biological factor is.
Say it refers to the way living organisms associate with each other in a habitat.
Okay, so biotic or biological factor of an ecosystem refers to the living things and their products. Living things and their products in an ecosystem and how they influence other living things. So living things and their products and how they influence other living things in an ecosystem. That's a biotic or biological factor. Refers to living things and their products and how they influence or impact other living organisms in the ecosystem. Is that clear? Okay. Who else? Okay, Caleb Apenyo. Answer this one. What is a population? Caleb Apenyo.
It is a group of organisms of the same species in a specific area at the same time, which are capable of interbreeding.
Great. So a group of organisms of the same species, all right? All right, or the total number of organisms of the same species that are found at a particular place at a particular time. All right, a group of organisms of the same species that are found at a particular place at a particular time. That is what population is. Excellent one there. All right. Agbemo William. Agbemo William, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, so answer this one. How would you explain bioaccumulation? For 5 marks, bioaccumulation.
Sir, I don't know what to put it to.
Emanuela Afeku, bioaccumulation.
Say.
Yes.
Say.
Explain
Say
in your
it
own
is
way.
the gradual accumulation. It is the gradual accumulation of substances in an organism.
Okay,
say
so
it occurs. Yeah.
Okay, explain. I asked you to
It
explain.
occurs when the organism absorbs a substance at a rate faster than that, like
faster than it
at
can
which the
remove
substance is lost.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. Nice one there. 4/5. That's great. That's great. Okay. Francasando. Unmute. Francasando. Francasando. Francasando, can you hear me? Okay. Ruth Elom. Ruth.
There.
Are you there? Good. tell us what a food chain is.
The food chain. So it is the feeding relationship in an ecosystem in which energy is transferred from plants through a series of organisms by each stage, feeding on the preceding stage and providing food for the succeeding one.
Excellent, excellent. Well, are you a journalist? Like that. All right. So the feeding association that exists in an ecosystem where energy is transferred from one trophic level to another, right? That's what she just said in so many words. So I like it when you are using your own words. All right. That is good. Okay. I'm a mature courage and mute. Courage, are you there? Courage, can you hear me? Courage.
Voice of sorrow.
Okay, Fafali Jasper. Fafali Jasper.
Say.
Yes. Tell us how temperature influences living organisms in their habitat. Temperature.
Say.
Yes, temperature.
Say.
Yes.
Please, temperature increases the rate of evaporation of water bodies and soil.
Pardon?
Say, please, did you get me?
No, I didn't.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, please, I said temperature increases the rate of evaporation of water bodies and soil.
So what has that got to do with organisms in the ecosystem? If water bodies and the soil lose water, what is the impact of that on living organisms?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, who is joining? Fafali to answer the question. Yes, Chantal. Chantal, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So if Fafali makes the point that temperature increases, so high temperatures increase the rate of loss of water from water bodies and the soil, right? Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Now, what is the importance of that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, what is the importance of that to living organisms? When water bodies and the soil lose water, what does that have to do with living organisms, plants and animals?
Okay, for instance, animals. Some of the animals lives in water.
Yes.
So when the temperature is high and the water dries up, it destroys their habitats.
Excellent.
And also when it comes to plants, if the temperature is too high, some plants they don't survive during high temperature.
During drought season, so they fall off their leaves, right?
Yeah.
That's great. It's a good way to think, right? Paula, are you there? Deborah Paula. Yes. So let's hear your answer to the effect of rainfall on the ecosystem. Rainfall. Hola. Hola.
I can hear you.
Yeah, so let's hear you. Did you hear the question? Did you hear the question?
Yes, I had a question.
All right, so let's hear you.
Sir, please, the effect, do you mean the negatives or the positives?
Effect is effect, positive and negative together. The effect could be positive or negative. So tell us any of them or both.
Sir, please, I think sometimes when the rainfall is high, it displaces some living organisms.
All right. So living organisms such as
Fishes when
such as fish.
when rivers or ponds, yes.
Okay, when they overflow their banks.
Or other, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
So that's fine. How else does rainfall impact the ecosystem? Okay, so let's Bisa. Nana Kofi, are you there? Bisa Nana Kofi. He's not there. Ewayi Daniel.
Sir.
Yes. So how else does rainfall impact the ecosystem?
Sir, rainfall.
When it rains heavily, what happens to the ecosystem? If it doesn't
Sir,
rain,
it causes.
If it doesn't rain, what happens?
Sir, I'm coming. Sir, rainfall can cause flood, right?
Yes. And what's the importance of the flood?
Importance of the flood.
Yes,
Sir.
it could be positive or negative.
Properties are lost.
My friend, we are talking about the natural ecosystem, not the human ecosystem. Which properties?
Sir, certain habitats are destroyed.
Which habitats?
Sir, I think, sir, first, rainfall can cause erosion.
Erosion, good.
Yeah.
And what happens during erosion?
Oh, sir.
It's because you are not nailing the thing.
Sir, like the topsoil is washed away, so I think.
Good. What does the topsoil contain? Excellent. So that is the point. During erosion, the nutrients that the plants need for growth are washed away. Some living organisms that also live in the topsoil are also displaced. All right. And that happens when we have droughts. All right.
Okay, sir.
Guys, thank you very much. It is time for me to go. If you don't have any questions, then I'll take a leave of you. We shall continue hopefully next week. But before then, I will let you have the slides and the notes. All right.
Sir.
Yes, who is calling?
I'm calling.
Who is that? Fumado?
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, let's hear you.
Sir, bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation.
Yes.
So what's the definition? You didn't give the definition for bioaccumulation.
Afeku Emanuela, give us your definition.
I don't like a definition. The definition, it was a kind of explanation. I want your definition.
Yes. So Afeku Emanuela, are you there?
Say.
Yeah, so give us your definition. You said the gradual accumulation of substances. The gradual accumulation.
Yes, in an organism.
Such that
So
what?
it is the such that
the rate of accumulation,
the rate at is faster,
is higher than the rate of loss of the chemical.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Exactly.
Emmanuel, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Emmanuel.
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Sir.
All right. So the gradual accumulation of chemicals in the tissues of an organism, such that the rate of accumulation is higher than the rate of loss of the chemical. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, great.
Say.
Yes, I've heard the root.
Such that
the rate of accumulation is higher than the rate of loss of the chemical.
Thank you.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. Okay. So thank you guys very much. Elective biology. Please, you guys go to the Google Classroom and follow the link and answer the questions quickly and let me see. All right. If it works, then I will replicate the same thing for all of you for the integrated science. All right.
Okay.
So far only Big and Faustin has done the work. And that is good. All right. Began, keep it up. Only Began Faustin has done the work. All of you do it and let me see how it works so that we shall use, if it is okay, then we will use that one. All right, so elective biology people, hurry up. All of us are waiting for you.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.